Welcome, Sue, pioneer in the field of improvisation since 1980, home based in San Francisco. How are you, Sue? And thanks for this podcast.
Well, you're welcome, and I'm doing just fine. It's the middle of the day here in San Francisco, a bright, lovely day.
Is San Francisco still the place to be? The best city in the world?
Well, one of the things that I find really fun is everybody knows San Francisco wherever I go. When they say, "Where are you from?" I say, San Francisco." So the perception is it's the place to go. Like everywhere else in the world, the city is in transition, and there's a lot of grassroots effort to hold it to its unique, diverse quality of it, rather than, because some areas are really what's called gentrifying, gentrification, which is people are buying up these places and changing the neighborhoods. So there's a lot of grassroots trying to hold on to this very diverse character of the city.
So the more, how do you call them? Often the techies, the people that are a little bit more rebel, they want to maintain the culture and for everyone to have able to access the city at least and to live there.
Right.
Same stuff happens in Amsterdam now and Berlin. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, it's the tech boom that's happening here that's really causing part of the problem.
Yeah.
Because those people are earning high salaries and they want places to live in the city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's a lot of us already living here, so they need to make new places. So that's part of the problem, that challenge of new people coming into the city who want a nice place to live.
Yeah.
So it's changing.
Even Oakland is getting really popular, right?
Yes.
I remember
Definitely.
celebrating underground parties there, but nowadays they might not be called underground parties anymore.
They may have a different name. I wouldn't know.
So
Remember, I started in applied improvisation before you were born. So
yeah, we just figured that out.
I don't know that culture. Yes.
So Sue, we met, I think, for the first time in Berlin during the Applied Improv Congress, or how do you call it?
Conference.
It's a conference.
Yes.
Will you join the conference in England?
Actually, I won't. I can't come. I just finally made the decision like 2 days ago. This will be the first one I missed since 2005.
Oh, that's sad. I'm still not sure if I can make it. It's Oxford, by the way, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, well, let's see. Let's see how that will go.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Sue, I always love the question, why do you do what you do? And what do you do for people that maybe do not really know what improvisation means?
Well, I like to describe improvisation as a great big pie. That there are different ways it can be used. That essentially what it is a skill set. It's a skill set that allows people to think more clearly on their feet, to be more creative, to be able to engage in the present moment in a very deep way, to be more aware, 360-degree awareness, to be able to see things that can work and move in that direction very quickly, a lot of mental agility. So there's this skill set. One piece of that pie is performing. And I've been there and done that. I had an improv troupe for 28 years here in the city that I directed and produced and played with. And I also, there's the workshops, which are part of that performance pie, though that piece of the pie is broadening to almost being a different piece of the pie, which is using those principles, skills, and tools as a teaching methodology. And that's showing up in a lot of other areas. Therapy, it's showing up in organizations, it's showing up in schools, all different. It's showing up in the jails, everywhere. It's beginning, that skill set is showing up. So that's another piece of the pie. I also taught improvisational theater for about 30 years. And I don't do that anymore, nor do I do the performing part anymore. I've shifted totally over to the other piece of the pie, which is the applications to life and to work.
Yeah, we share that, I think. I do still perform, but it's very little. Yeah.
I find people say, oh, don't you miss that? And I realized that just being up in front of a group of people and helping facilitate some learning and trying some new things is there's a degree of performance to that, in that I can access my performance skills,
Totally.
like create a character voice in the moment, So, what do you think about that? Or do something just off the cuff that reinforces the learning and keeps it light.
Light and not therapeutic or something.
Right, or like heavy learning.
Yeah, heavy learning. Yeah, what do you think? And then
Yes.
silence. And I also noticed when you start off, well, maybe goofy is not the right word, but low threshold and funny, light-hearted, then people feel like, this is the threshold. This is the...
Exactly.
We can go that way as well. So you actually invite them to go with you, go with the flow.
That's right.
Brilliant. So Sue, I love your metaphor with the pie and improv. And for people that do not really know improv theater so well, can you give them a very quick description what it entails?
Well, it would be theater without scripts. Essentially, where in the moment we are, through our awareness and our improv principles, making each other look good, building off of the moment, staying very focused on what's happening right now and out of our heads with planning, all of that, and we create theater. And it can happen in different formats.
Nice.
Short form, which is like a series of, they're kind of like games, though everything is based on audience input, so it keeps it very fresh, spontaneous, and the players nor the audience know what's going to happen next. My troupe had a requirement, so to speak, and a challenge, which was not to repeat any material. So even if something worked really great in the past, we just have this promise to ourselves and each other that we're not going to drag that back out.
Yeah, that's too easy.
Yeah.
And I love it because then you really put yourself in a frame for synergy to occur. Because
Yes.
I really believe that synergy can only occur when you don't plan ahead. When you're really in the moment and you listen to the other and you build upon something that is there intrinsically. Yeah.
Right. And one of the major differences between theater improv and application to your life or your work improv is in the interpretation of one of the core principles, yes and. So in theater improv, it's literal. That's a jargon. It's part of the way that we work, which means we love everything that comes up. We agree with it. We go with it. We build off of it. When you move yes and all of its power out of theater, you have to remove the agreement piece out of the yes. Because that's where the jargon isn't taken literally. Jargon is shorthand language from an industry. In this case, the industry being improvisation theater.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, one of the bigger challenges for both people who are on the receiving end and people who are delivering the yes and is to remember in this new context, it has to do with acceptance, not agreement. Might be agreement, not a requirement.
Yeah. Something like mindful yes ending, like
exactly
embracing the situation. It's already happening. It's maybe not always nice. And then what shall we do? Shall we pivot? Shall we talk about it?
What do we do with this?
Yeah.
Right. The first step always has to be some kind of acceptance, appreciation, acknowledgement, some respect in there, which allows us to then move into some kind of positive action.
Yeah.
If that's not there, it's just a yes but.
Yeah.
With a fancy hat on.
Exactly, and then you get like defense mechanisms in the equation, and you go down spiral instead of going up. Yeah.
Right. And after a time when people have been yes butted enough, they shut down. They won't play anymore. They won't participate, which means you lose a resource.
Yeah. Yeah, you get terrible things, depression, people get burned out.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the principle. I remember me starting playing improv, and nowadays I even call myself sometimes, it's a bit cheesy, yes, Jessica.
Jessica, I love it.
Yes, and Jessica.
Yeah.
And then people think that I cannot say no, but I can. But I,
That's right.
even though if I feel inside I'm not really happy with the current situation, I still try to embrace it and take the positive out of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it becomes really interesting if you can do that. Life can be really become, so much more, with so much more depth, and that you can actually lead it. Like you can transform and you can pave your own path towards a new future. Maybe if you not want to be where you are at a certain moment. So Sue, why do you do improv? Like, what is the purpose behind it? Like, can you remember that you had a certain situation from childhood, or maybe not at all? What was the moment in your life you were like, yes, and I will work with this skill set? Can you remember?
I think as a child, I was always a bit of, my mother called it a show-off. I love to sing songs for the family and tell stories. I love to make up plays, all of that. So there was, and it turns out that I've got a great-grandmother who was an actress.
Ah, here you go.
So there's some genetic influence there, perhaps. Anyway, my grandmother on my father's side told my folks, you really need to get this girl some singing and dancing lessons. She recognized it. My folks, I think, just saw it as family entertainment, and they had a different idea for me. It's like,
don't dance during dinner.
Yeah, that's I never laid that on my kids. It's like, what do you want to pursue? What creative thing do you want to explore? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Until they found their niche, and both their niches turned out to be music. Strangely enough, even though they're both very artistic, they're both very comfortable in front of groups. They both are good singers. They both write songs, And anyway, so it's like, and I approached the work with my grandson the same way. What are you interested in? Let's do it. He's a drawer. He's just like constantly drawing. Here's today's mail. It's the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh, that's so cute.
Bending and bowing.
That's so nice. I love it.
So, what and where? It's like, so for me, that was very early on, that seed was there. And when did it all come together and go, aha, with improvisation? At the very first workshop I attended in 1975.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! It was exactly like that. Yeah. Doors opened, lights flashed, bells rang. It's like, it was at that, exactly. At that moment I knew this is for me.
This is
a fit.
Destination starting point even.
Yeah, it was just like, this is such a fit. This is who I am. Yeah. It was like finding myself.
Nice. That's so beautiful. Wow.
Yeah. And how I've done that has just evolved. Like it started off with performing, then it evolved into leading a workshop because the group I was working with left town, led my own workshops. I went on and on. My own troupe, It's like, and then eventually my students said, hey, Sue, nudge, nudge, we're using this stuff at work. Can you come in and help us do it better?
Ding.
Never thought of that. Ding.
Yeah.
And that opened another whole big door.
Nice. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, Sue, I was wondering, what is like the meaning underneath that? Why is this such a beautiful fit for you? What is your purpose in that sense? What's your mission with this skill set?
To share it as much as possible, everywhere and anywhere I can.
Yeah, because you would love people to be more humble towards themselves and others, or to be more open, or to be more flexible, or something you would love to see differently.
Well, I use my own experience as the inspiration, in that it had such an impact on me and the way I related to myself and to others and to the world. It just shifted so much. And to be able to make those shifts with playful, concrete tools, techniques, and principles, it's like, how much better does it get?
Exactly.
And I don't believe that this approach is perfect for everyone. I used to think that, but I'm wiser now. It is not. However, everyone can pull something from it and use it in their own way.
Exactly.
So,
I believe that.
I've worked with a lot of high-tech companies. You name any high-tech company from Silicon Valley, I've probably worked with them. And including things like Lawrence Livermore Lab with rocket scientists. I've worked with teachers. I've worked with bank tellers. I've worked with boards of directors, all different, the whole spectrum. And it has resonated with people just across the board. I've also worked all over the world, both Far East, South Korea, very conservative culture, and Japan, and they get it. It may be a challenge. They get it. They get
cross cultures. Yeah,
it definitely is. I didn't know how cross culture it was till I started working in Europe.
Yeah. And I had the same experience in India. I feel that they
Yes.
were kind of, because the culture in general is a little bit timid and kind of reserved, and suddenly they can they have a moment of stealing the show or explore something, and they just need a little nudge, and then it's like, wow, they're surprised by everything they can accomplish. Yeah,
right.
Beautiful.
And I've worked in Turkey and Israel also, so they're the same, different versions of the same thing. One of the more challenging cultures was Japan, because their education system is based on passive learning.
Yeah. Sitting
So
in a
they
chair.
don't ask questions. They
Yeah.
don't volunteer things. So group discussions are almost, I had to design totally around their culture.
Wow.
And they got it.
Mm.
Same thing in South Korea. I had to design for the culture, which is low risk, little baby steps.
Yeah. So that means that it's actually, in a sense, universal, because it's human-centered based.
Exactly.
I think everyone has this little child that is screaming for, exploration and adventure. But there's several reasons, and that's for everyone different, why this voice cannot, take a stake. And
Yes.
so I'm always really surprised when, even if you see judgmental faces of people, how they can still shift and explore it. So, Sue, you are talking about you developed some skills for leadership skills, and can you talk about that a little bit more? What are your best practices in that, and why are these so important, and for whom?
Well, let's step back a bit and let's walk into this whole concept of leadership.
Yeah, let's do that.
The old version of leadership was there was a manager who moved, and everybody's job was to follow. And that doesn't work anymore.
Creating followers, right? Yeah.
Right. That's not what it's about anymore. Now, there's this push to, in many industries, to find the leader within and step up. So in a sense, it's like more of a horizontal kind of leadership. There are some companies that on the team, the leader of the moment is the one who knows this subject and has the tools to help the team move.
Yep.
On the next project, it might be somebody else.
Yeah, it rotates. Yeah.
So, and that's ideal, which means the education system has to change a whole lot to catch up with that.
Definitely.
Because the education system, at least over here, teaches people to be good workers, but doesn't necessarily teach people to be good leaders.
Exactly.
So what are the skills that need to be focused on? There was a study that was done a while back, several years ago, that asked top leaders of Fortune 500 companies of what they considered the most important skill. What did they do the most that they credited with their success? And they said, surprise, surprise, they said listening.
Yeah, I read that one. Yeah. Listening.
And I still see that in a lot of leadership training, that's not what they lead with. They lead more with the speaking and the being credible and being
Rational.
a leadership persona. Yes, and being a plan maker. And these successful CEOs said, listening. First, listening. So, and then there's that old thing about, we have two ears and one mouth, which means we should be listening twice as much as we should be speaking.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. Yeah.
Listen
exactly to the ideas that are already there. I also train at the International Business Studies of Innovation in Holland, IBIS, and the most successful sessions are actually when the students just take the floor. I send them some videos in advance, and they will just take over, and they listen to each other, and I'm just on the chair making some notes, and they love it. I have hardly anything to say. And those are really the most successful ones. So, in a sense, it's good news. We have to work less hard.
Yes. Yeah, or be less convincing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, related to that, the way that what you did is you created engagement around the principles, and then they got it. If you had stood there and lectured them about the principles, it would have gone into the head and got stuck looking for a place to file that, or decide if I'm in agreement with it, or what could not work about this, or you push it into the head.
Exactly.
Whereas what you did, and for me, that's the beauty of the applied improvisation, is it brings it into the body, into the experience.
Yeah.
If I have X experience, I'm going to trust that more than if you tell me I might have X experience.
Yeah.
Because I've got it. So, and there are a lot of methodologies out there that are very engaging and hands-on and give people a chance to really experience or feel or notice things. There's a lot of them. Applied improv happens to be just a lot of fun, in addition to being so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is why it's such a joy to use it when I work with people.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm working mostly with facilitators, trainers, and coaches. People who are creating the stage for new kinds of leadership, who are creating formats and engagements with groups and individuals to help them step into their leadership or their higher selves, their more highly functioning selves.
Mm-hmm.
I call those the doorway people.
Yeah.
Because each one of them has people they influence.
Yeah.
And if I can give them skills and tools that are easily transferable,
you get a wrinkle effect. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Beautiful.
If my goal is, as I said earlier, to share these tools, principles, and skills as far as possible, that's an ideal audience for me at this stage.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I think we really share the same purpose in that sense. I even share the toolkits now to students, and I was in the beginning a little bit like, maybe it's too deep or too difficult or too something, but they translate it in their own worlds, and it works. It works.
Yes.
They can apply it. It's beautiful. And so you were talking about leadership skills, and how can you were naming listening, be less convincing. So how do you facilitate that? Like, how do you pull that off?
Well, the way that I work is I take the improv, let me see. I almost always start off with some type of awareness exercise as I launch into some kind of program. One that captures metaphorically exactly what the objective is. So if it's leadership, I would put them in a situation, an activity where they had to share the leadership perhaps on it. Then, and it would be an improv game, so the content would have nothing to do with work, which helps people relax, and they tend to show up as their most true self. As soon as we put work stuff on it, then we put on our work self.
Yeah.
Which sometimes can be a facade, and we don't even realize it because we wear it so often. So this playful experience usually lasts maybe 5 minutes, not much more than that, 7 minutes. Then the debrief of it has us look at and analyze what just happened.
Yeah.
Because there were skills, behaviors, and attitudes that made this experience work, and there were skills, behaviors, and attitudes that may have inhibited the process. So what were those? And we take a look at those and create a group list, or maybe we work individually and then make a group list. I do it different ways depending on the audience.
Yeah.
What comes out of that is the fact that we have at our fingertips two very different skill sets. One that is very analytical and in nature, and the other that's more for our interactive experiences. Our education system, at least over here, and in many cases in different countries, is heavy on the analytical skills. So then you get these analytical people who've created something really amazing, and then they go to share it with other people, and they don't realize what they're doing, which is they're actually creating defensiveness or resistance because they don't have the other skill set to engage in a communication around it. So generally speaking, what I'm called in for, or what I'm presenting, is uses for this skill set, that interactive skill set. And it's a big long list, almost always. It's a huge big list. On a flip chart, it takes columns and some written up the side. And you know, so I synthesize it down to 3 core skills. One is being fully present. One is being open. And one is being mentally flexible. So then I can apply those 3 core skills to almost anything that involves interaction. And in leadership, they come in, you know, like the being fully present, of course, is us being really there and listening and not in our heads thinking ahead or what I'm going to say when you shut up.
That's why I never work in circles. I always say, whoever wants to be next, go for it.
Yes. Well, it's fun to have people in a circle and say, let's jump around. And there's a lot of fun techniques for doing that. You know, using something to toss. Who do you toss it to? They go next. Then I sing about circles from my point of view is that you can see each other. But taking turns in circles, it's an example of, as you're pointing out, how we get into patterns. And patterns mean we're unconscious and we're not fully present. So often there's a lot of really fun games that give you a chance to just notice how your being present muscle is, how well developed it is. And then listening is always a key piece of that. And I lead with that always. Because the rest of the day will be less effective if people don't know how to really listen in a very different way. So one of the things I teach people is an exercise called the voice mirror. It's actually like a tool. I think you've seen me do this before, the voice mirror.
Yeah, it will recall if you because we will start doing this, right?
Yes, let's start doing it. So I start with what I call training wheels, so people get a chance to experience how it works without really doing it yet. So I'm going to slow down talking, and anybody who's listening to this podcast can do it too. I'll slow down, and why don't you start softly matching the words that I'm saying? So while I talk...
With audio?
Yes, with audio, softly.
Softly.
So you are matching word for word everything I am saying, and you are trying to say these words at the same time that I am saying them. So you are not an echo. You are a mirror. All right, and then time out on that. And now do that in your head so that your thoughts are actually matching word for word what I'm saying.
I'm remember it now. I will do it. Yes.
Yes. And for those watching, listening to the podcast, same thing. Just put it in your head now. And you may have noticed that Jessica was a little bit behind me, and that's very typical, because there's a lot of you involved in doing it out loud like that. And I always tell people, please do not do this out loud with other people. It is really annoying. So it's done in your head. And it's very different from typical listening in that typical listening usually is a mixture of this and taking a little sidestep from this to think about what you're just hearing and to process it and think, where do I want to file this? And what do I want to say about this as soon as she stops talking? And how do I feel about this? Oh, this is hard. I'm not sure I want to do this. Chatter, chatter, chatter.
And do I already know it? And then I will like it. And if not,
yes, yes, I have to think about it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So people get a chance to really notice when they're present listening or when they're processing. Two different functions. And most people don't realize the difference. It's very powerful when they do. I had an engineer once who was tasked with introducing me to a bunch of new hires for a workshop I was going to lead for them. And he and all the executive team had already been through this and said, go, do this with everybody in the company. Anyway, he said, when she teaches you this one thing called the voice mirror, I just want to let you know, it saved my marriage.
Wow.
Yeah, and I thought, whoa.
So he was actually being more present by, in his mind, lip dubbing his wife?
Yes, he was listening to his wife, really listening to her. And he understood the difference between, oh yeah, she's talking now, she'll be done in a minute, and then I can tell her about this. Or I know what she's going to say, so I don't have to pay attention to this.
Yeah.
Or what time is it? I got to get out and get the lawn mowed.
Yeah.
He realized he had not been listening to her.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's at least over here, surveys show that that's the number one complaint women have about their male partners is that they don't listen. And
yeah, I think it's a human habit in general. Maybe
yes,
it's also
yes.
a gender thing. I'm not sure. Lately,
Well,
I haven't dated so many men, but let's see.
Men are trained to be problem solvers. That's one of the ways that they serve in the world. So
Okay.
the minute you start talking, they identify the problem, and then they start trying to figure out how they can help you.
Serve you. Okay.
Yes, and they're not listening anymore. And engineers, of course, are trained problem solvers. Anybody in the financial field or the tech field or engineers, they want to solve problems. That's what they do. So it's that analytical skill set kicks in and blocks the listening.
Yeah, totally.
So,
This also really resonates with an exercise I often do. Why do you do what you do, or why do you have this limiting belief? And somebody has to talk about why he or she is not doing what he would love to do, and the other person is simply listening and asks why. When somebody stops explaining, so okay, you do not have money to start your business, why or how come? To be a little bit more gentle, and then listening again. But it's the only thing I have to coach on is that people do not start talking or solving or sharing their opinion or trying to go from the path the person is talking to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
So another principle, the yes and, when you think about that acceptance piece and appreciation piece, that's listening, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's listening with no filters about judgment or comparisons. It's just taking you in and appreciating you. So developing that sense, that filter of appreciation and being here with you is a really important piece of the yes. Is that I'm here and not jump to the and. The action piece or solve the problem piece. It's like stay right here with you, and that might involve me then being curious about you. Why do you do that? I love that question. Why do you do what you do?
Yeah, we had that one going.
Yes,
in your
that
session.
exercise going. Yes, I love that question.
It's so nice. Yeah.
And I've used it in networking introduction processes.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, and people it's like, whoa, that really gets down to the core.
You will not start talking from the heart, from the head anymore. You have to take some layers or ask again. Okay, you are an IT specialist, very great, and you studied that, but why do you do that? You have to ask again the why.
Yeah,
I love it. in
Yeah.
that sense. And Sue, as a trainer, or you call yourself a facilitator, I guess, right?
Trainer slash facilitator.
Yeah, I find it hard
the
to-
minute you bring new information in to share, you're a trainer. However, we also facilitate the learning.
I'm also a coach at the same time. And
it's a combination of all three.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
what about your own judgments? I mean, we all, have a history. We all have a certain environment we grew up with, and things we automatically love, or things we feel more distance to. So, what do you do if you have a group of people, participants, and there's some participants that just annoy you, or you feel like, I don't know, it's not smooth, or is this never happening? That can also be the case.
When I engage being fully present, and I engage the yes and, if I'm appreciating somebody for what they have to offer, then I will look in what they're offering to see what's of value there, right? So let me go on to some mental flexibility and show you something that combines being fully present and listening and the yes step, the acknowledgement appreciation thing, that helps deal with people who appear to be trying to derail a situation. Or it's also useful for people who digress or loop. And it uses the listening and the yes step. So why don't you start being an interruptive type of person who's got an agenda in your head, and say we're talking about leadership skills. Maybe that's the objective of the day, is leadership. And we're looking at kind of a new angle on leadership skills. And you've got some ideas about this. So go ahead and let me show you how this works.
So, leadership skills as of today, I think, only students should adopt those, and teachers are no longer necessary in the classroom, and they will take the lead and they create their own curriculum, because teachers they don't no longer have a function in the classroom.
That's so true.
Yeah.
I'm noticing that you have a very keen observation about how the education system really needs to change, and that the old model of that where you are told what you're supposed to learn is changing to the students discovering what they have to learn. And that's so much like we can't go back and change that for ourselves. However, we can use that now in the company and in the way that we deal with leadership. So like today, we're learning some skills that actually would help a student to step up and be able to do that. So did you see what I did?
Right. You were just grasping in it, and you were lecturing me, no?
Well, what I did was I acknowledged what you said.
First?
I added value to it. So first I had to really listen to what your point was. What were you saying?
You were taking it to a more abstract level,
And what I did was, there's 3 steps. One, I had to really listen, because that's when I noticed you were starting on a rant, a lecture of your own, okay? And I picked a nice arc place where back up. Before that, did you notice I was doing what I call noisy listening?
Oh, yeah.
I was really encouraging you. Now, people who view somebody as a disruption won't want to encourage them. However, it demonstrates I was really listening. It also got you used to my voice.
Interesting. I thought I was always being annoying by saying, yes. Oh, beautiful. But it's actually, maybe it shows that I'm really involved.
It's an acknowledgement level of the appreciation and acceptance. Acknowledgement has a sound to it. So the first step was listening with the listening noises and really getting where you were going. And then I wedged in with some active appreciation for what you contributed. And then I kept the focus and took step by step, translated that transitioned it over to what we were talking about as a group. And then you notice I stopped looking at you and I started talking to everybody
That's
else.
why we're not looking at
Exactly, because if I stay here, we're engaging in a discussion.
Yeah.
But I took your value and applied it to the group. And that way you felt what?
Part of it, and not the only person that is dominating the whole group, perhaps.
And you really contributed.
Yeah, because you smooth out my information in the group.
And I linked it to what we're talking about.
Yeah. And do you often ask the group as well, anyone has an example as well, you know?
Yes, that would be a nice next step.
Or do you think that's maybe frightening or challenging if people do not relate to the story? But you already made it so abstract, so they must. Yeah,
I
made an umbrella. Yeah,
I generalized it. And, offering an invitation is different than saying, so, Jessica, what's an example from your life where this,
exactly.
You invite another thing.
It's all about how you do it.
Yeah. And you have to be managing the time when you do that. If you are, because of this person, this whole section has gotten bigger, then I may not want to go to the audience and get other examples. I may use them as a transition into my next point.
Yeah.
And that's mental flexibility.
Yeah.
And I don't have that unless I listen and appreciate what you offered.
Yeah.
And then I use your offer for the transition. Yeah. And that requires me to get mentally flexible because on the surface, it may not seem clear that there's any relationship whatsoever to what we're talking about.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And if I'm in the yes and mode, the yes mode, I will find it.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes when I feel people are stuck in their heads, I also make duos and I just try to create this dialogue amongst them. Like, okay, what has E to do with B, and how can you use that in your work context? Right. And sometimes I'm like, I'm not sure if there's any valuable thing. Well, but it's like self-fulfilling prophecy in a good sense.
And isn't that just what you were talking about, is that the teacher isn't the font of knowledge, it's the students and the experience they bring that helps them grow into it. Definitely. So that's exactly the same thing, is you don't have to know. Put them together and let them tell you.
Yeah, together they have way more insights than you can ever have. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Nice. So
that little tool is called wedging in. You know how when you want to split wood, you put a wedge in there?
Yeah.
And then when you hit it, the wood splits. So I'm there with you, and I set the wedge down, and then I keep listening for the arc of information that feels like it's a natural transition piece. And then I wedge that open with the yes. And then I keep the focus. I don't give it back.
Yeah.
And then I broaden it to include the group. So that's called wedging in. I created that because of a sister-in-law I used to have.
Without making that particular person feeling uncomfortable or being shut off or feeling useless or maybe regrets
or interrupted, like they were off.
Yeah.
And then they'll get defensive and it'll get worse.
Yeah. This is great for students too, that kind of chatting through your sessions or whatever.
Right. Yeah, right, definitely. With each other. I had a group, I'll remember once, it was so funny. One of the what was it about? I think it was customer service. And there was this lady in the group who just after every point anybody made had to have some advice for them. Everything anybody said, she had some advice for. And I was very, after the third time she did it, I thought, okay, bring out the wedging in tool here.
Yeah.
And I started very early on wedging in, acknowledging, appreciating her, applying it to what we were talking about, and moving on. And the funny thing was, in the afternoon, I taught them the wedging in. And at the break after I taught them that, within a customer service, framework, because customers sometimes digress, blah, blah, blah. They have to tell you their whole story. during the break, somebody else came up and she says, "That's a really cool tool." She says, "You were using it on her all morning, weren't you?" She says, "I was watching the way you just gracefully took the focus back over and over and over. You were using that." And I said, "Yep."
Yep. That's beautiful. That's experiencing and then learning. It's double loop learning, right?
Yes, yes, yes. And, anybody who was paying attention in the room that got it, like this lady, they all of a sudden, they had their own direct experience with it. They saw it in action working.
Mm-hmm.
So that gave it even more credibility.
Yeah. So, Sue, I remember I had a participant once, and this was older male man, and he was really, he didn't really look happy, from the outside. And then I did a check-in, and then he said, I thought it was really brave and powerful. I feel nervous, and I don't know why. It was at the start of the session,
Of course, yes. Unknown, improv.
Yeah, I didn't even say I was about to do improv or anything, but it was just new people, and it was a session about transformation, so same thing, being pretty scared, I think.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't like going into training situations because they feel they're going to end up looking dumb.
Yeah.
Because
the ego thing.
That's tied to that thing about I'm supposed to know everything.
Yeah.
These are people who would never probably ever say, I'm not sure. I'll look that up and get back to you. Yeah. They probably would never ever say that.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that he did open up, and at a certain point of time I felt something was transforming internally. It was a very short session, maybe 2 or 3 hours. And after that, a month later, I had like a coaching session on the phone with him, and he was kind of downsizing the session. While back then in the session, he was a different person, So he felt like back in his patterns. So I'm with Host to Transform, as you might have dived into my concept. I really champion these exercises to be 30 minutes a day or 30 minutes a week to actually practice it as a kind of yoga. And not so much as a training program that is 5 hours, and we are kind of, figuring out how we can kind of entertain people for 5 hours and make it really interesting, and aha moment after aha moment. And I kind of felt disappointed when I started off as a trainer. And as of today, I'm actually building and designing skills and toolkits for people to apply themselves. So I have the same target audience as you have, totally. But also to really integrate it and to have just sessions during the day.
Right. So it's ongoing skill building.
It's like going to the gym, you're not fit in one day. You have to continuously doing it, and you get more fun in it. And after a while, you chose your own machines you love to work with, or own style. Maybe we want to dance more. Some people want to work with machines. And this is kind of something what I would love to do, but it's so new. I mean, if you say 15 minutes of meditation, people kind of know where you're coming from. But if you say, let's do 30 minutes of fitness for the mind and network, or whatever metaphor you can think of, it's still a little bit off the hook. And I'm kind of trying to find my way to make this more, I don't like the word mainstream, but more accepted. And why take a 30-minute cigarette break if you can also do other stuff, Or
Right. That's one of the things I really appreciate about what you're doing, is that you are giving people a toolkit that they can use. So, of course, you're cutting edge is what you are. And cutting edge runs into things like changing my pattern is scary and it's hard work. It's easier just to do what I always did.
Yeah.
Until something really painful happens that provides the inspiration. Some of us are self-starters. We get inspired because we like the way something worked. I want to do that more. Or it felt really good to be listening in a different way, or connecting with people in a different way. That felt so much better. I want to do that more.
Yeah.
The whole thing about solutions focus, it really focuses on, the little delightful things that work. And that's not the way historically the mind, that problem-solving thing is what didn't work. I got to focus on that, and then I have to fix that. Much easier to focus on what did work and do that more.
Yeah.
And in a sense, a toolkit is saying, here, use this, see how that feels. If it works, do more of that. Do more of whatever works.
Yeah.
That's all. Simple.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on what doesn't work and how bad I feel.
Yeah.
What a downer that is.
Yeah. It will take over your whole perception of everything. Yeah.
Exactly. And that is a very strong perception that a lot of people have.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also felt like I also, of course, on the phone, I had to listen to him in an open mind again and being present and not say, you liked it, and no, you did. And it did change you. You should apply it more because you were judging. I saw it on your face. So I was just listening to him. Yeah, if he wants to say that, like, yeah, those games are pretty nice and valuable, but maybe not for me. And then I'm like, oh man, you can make the biggest jump, from the whole group.
Now, in a case like that, see the yes anding there is to say, you're right, they are not for everyone. However, let's focus on what they gave you. Never mind the game.
Yeah.
That was just a vehicle.
Exactly.
We're not in that vehicle anymore. So, what did you notice that worked, and has anything since then? Has it worked? Where are the things that have worked?
Yeah.
Because you need to guide him to see differently. He's still looking through the same old filter.
Yeah.
People like that need a new filter.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Nice. So, there's so many interesting things we can talk about, but it's already 50 minutes that passed. Maybe one more question, and then I would love for you to fill up the gaps. If there's anything you would like to add, or maybe you want to talk about, or champion, or let the listeners know how to find more about your work. Do you think you yourself? Let's keep it with leadership. Do you think you're a leader, from a natural leader, or what kind of leader are you? Or is everyone a leader? You can approach.
Well, I think it's a hat that we can wear given the circumstances. There are times when I'm comfortable stepping up and initiating and taking over leadership in the moment. I was the second child in a group of 6, and I was the first girl. Which meant, in a sense, I was put in the leadership role of the family underneath me. My brother was in charge of the yard. He was outside, okay? I was inside with all the kids. So it's very easy for me to do that. I have a lot of firstborn tendencies just to step into leadership. The bigger challenge for me is to step back and let other people go first. And I'm aware of that, so I do that. And it doesn't feel, it used to just be really like itchy to do that. It's like, they're not doing it, I better do it. Like, no, Sue, you don't need to. Not everybody works so fast like you do,
Yeah. Because I feel you. I feel we're on the same page there. Like, I can totally be, the typical leader, initiate things and have ideas and go from A to B. And people often, also feel comfortable following, not the whole world, but just from nature. I don't know. But I love to be led too. For example, I went to Israel like 2 weeks ago for a wedding in Bethlehem. And before that, I went to Brazil, and before that, I went to other places, and they were all new places for me. And I got the opportunity and the privilege, I should say, to meet up with people that know the city really well, or the places where they live, and then all the cool stuff. And as soon as I know I resonate with them, they know we kind of have the same taste, or they know what they're doing. That's maybe better the way to formulate it. Then I'm an easy follower.
Yes.
And it's really strange because after 2 weeks of following, I was on my own again. I'm like, whoa, where do I go? I have to get to the airport, and I have to get a cab myself. And
I got to get my other hat back on.
Exactly. And I didn't
Exactly.
took so much, and I enjoyed it actually. I also felt some
Yeah.
revival within me, like, oh, I have also
Yes.
my own
Yes.
steering in my hand again. Yeah.
Yes. One of the things in improv theater training is the need to be willing to step up quickly to be the lead, like the star.
Yeah.
You're the leader for the moment, or to quickly step into support role.
Yeah.
Step back and to be able to perceive what's needed in the moment.
Yeah.
And I give credit to my ability to do both to that training. I've noticed over time that I know how to be a good supporter because of that improv training. Like you're talking about, I can step into that role really well.
Yeah, you made sure that my face is illuminated right now by this lamp.
Yes.
You told me.
And one of the ways that this shows up a lot when I'm out in the world, like with a group setting and somebody else is in charge, whether they're a performer or a speaker or a workshop leader, whatever, is that they give me as an audience member, a group member, a lot of focus. And I thought, why are they looking at me so much? I'm getting more than my share of their attention. And I realized after a while, it's because they got it unconsciously that I'm really there.
Yeah.
So they kept coming back to me.
Yeah.
Whereas other people might, their attention might wander a little, or they're looking down at their phone, or maybe they're writing some notes, whatever. They're not fully there.
Yeah, people can totally sense it. Everything is energy in the end, I believe. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm putting off, not only my attention is there, but it's like my wanting them to succeed.
Yeah, they can totally feel that support, even if it's invisible. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've stopped sitting in the front row because of that. Yeah, I sit back a little deeper because that way if somebody keeps looking at me, at least people around me think they're looking at them. It disperses it a little bit.
Are you sure you were not wearing like a strange hat?
I must have been. Or my hair. People often comment on my hair. Look at, there's that woman with the hair. Look at that hair. That's interesting hair. I wonder how she does that. Is it product or is it the cut? Could I do that with my hair?
It's your trademark. I love it. Like with me, it started to begin green. I wear green a lot. Unconsciously or is it subconsciously or unconsciously? I'm confused.
Maybe it's both.
Both. Let's make it both. So Sue, do you have? I love this this dialogue we have, and also especially the exercises you did with us, the wedging in and the open. What was it? The voice mirror. Sorry. I hope people can repeat them and apply it in their own work context, even if you're a lecturer.
The definition for the yes, because that's the really important connector between the listening and the wedging in.
Yeah, so the yes is not a literally yes ending to all the proposals you get in your life. Then you get married maybe every day, if you're lucky, or breaking up every day. But it's about accepting the circumstances in your mind.
Appreciating. Yeah.
Turning it to something positive and what did work. Even though you might feel devastated, right?
Well, I may not in the end want to go in that direction. However, I can decide that later based on more information rather than instantly, like a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah. Beautiful. So great. So do you have anything you would love to share or to add or we didn't touch upon?
Well, will there be a follow-up with some links to some things?
Yeah.
Okay. Because what I can do is I can send you a document on a description of the voice mirror and a description of the wedging in.
Beautiful.
I can also send you a document that summarizes what the applied improv definition of yes and is. And I can send you the link to my online course of how to use these principles in your designing of workshops or events or talks or even a meeting. I've taken my day-long design program and created a online course for it. And
Beautiful.
There's a free peek of what it's about is on there for anybody who wants to go in and look.
Definitely.
And at this point, after years and years and years of producing events and handling logistics and everything, registration, marketing, everything, I now go where I'm invited. So I don't let me know when you offer something. That's not the way how I work anymore. Other people invite me to bring something.
Nice.
And then it goes up on the website and I let people know that I'm doing that.
Nice.
I feel like I've been on a slight hiatus because of that young man that you met earlier, my grandson, because he lives here with me. I'm helping to raise him. I'm teaching him yes and very early on.
Wow. He's so lucky.
his daddy's a real yes-ander also. So because both my sons are really, they have the improv filter.
Nice.
That whole
By
yes and
nature
filter.
already.
Yes. So my son and I are basically doing the bulk of raising him, and while he's been small, giving that a lot of focus to be there in support of that. So, and I'm itching to get back and be doing some more work.
Yeah. So when are you
and
back in the Netherlands? You also have a house here, right?
I have
Apartment.
I have business partners, and they find an apartment for me, a short-term apartment when I come. I've been in a different one every time I come.
You're swapping houses. It's not only game swaps, but swapping houses.
Not exactly, because there's a lot of short-term rentals all over the world now.
Yeah.
And so they find a short-term rental for me.
Beautiful.
When I come. So, nice. This house is full here. I couldn't swap because there's a daddy, a mommy, and a little guy live here with me.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So, Sue, I hope to be in San Francisco somewhere in the summer, actually.
Yay.
Nothing final yet, but, I believe in the law of attraction, so I do my little future planning in my head sometimes. So it would be nice to hook up and let me know when you're back in the Netherlands. Right.
It may not be till next year at this point. The AIN conference was going to be my anchor to come over.
Yeah.
And it's just at the wrong time of year for me to come. I just can't come in August.
Okay.
So it just sort of pushed everything off to spring.
Okay. Well.
And it turns out that you and Laura is coming over this summer, and then my business partner Lydia is going to come over in September. So it looks like the Netherlands is coming to me
finally
in the summer and the fall. So so I don't need to travel this year.
Let's go to this bluegrass festival in Golden Gate Park.
Sounds lovely. I love bluegrass music. Yes.
Beautiful. Yes. So, Sue, thank you so much for your time and for your great insights. I will definitely add the links in the podcast so people can check it out.
Right.
And, for sure, we will continue this conversation as it's never ending, right? It's a continuous learning loop. And let's speak soon.
All right. I love it.